Hi, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Larry Cooper and David Young. Hi, guys. I can do
Hey, how are
two
you,
hands
everybody?
this morning.
How are you, Kath?
Hello.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a special Conscious Business Zone. We usually only do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So this is a Friday version. And it's because I don't want you to miss the opportunity to experience Larry's event with David Young that's in Boulder, or excuse me, in Arvada, or yeah, it's Arvada tonight. So Larry, why
I'm
don't you
confused
give
also. I'm
us
glad you are.
it's been a busy week and
It
so much
has.
wonderful energy. The energies are, yeah, we're transforming right now a lot. So, which is a good thing. So, basically, Conscious Business Zone is here to help as many people wake up to their divinity. And so, we profile and bring you these amazing divine teachers, masters, guides, and change agents that are helping to bring in this new energy. So, Larry owns a company called Journeys for Conscious Living, and he's like a brother from another mother. We do lots of things together. And so, Larry, why don't you introduce David for us? Since I did meet you, David, at the IONS group.
Oh, okay.
I was a volunteer. I'm actually the one who got Larry to volunteer.
You're the one. That's it. That's
Yeah,
how I met David.
Oh,
that's
okay.
right. That's right. Because I love the energy that those people have is so well, you could be a speaker at it, Larry. So otherworldly. So anyway, please, Larry, will you introduce David for me because you
Yeah.
know more about him, please?
Yeah. Hey,
Hey,
Larry, and
Kathy, thank you so much.
Make sure you do a good job introducing me. Okay. Well, this is your big shot.
I've been hanging out with David for a couple of days. It's quite an amazing experience overall. I met David just a couple of years ago, and we had him come perform at Journeys for Conscious Living. And I worked with a lot of different artists. I worked with a lot of very conscious people. I get to work with people like Kathy Mason that change the world every day. And
Yeah.
it's really a wonderful opportunity just for yourself to meet another incredible human being who I don't think he's human, by the way, but that's okay, who's really changing the world. And so we've had a lot of fun this week. We're actually doing 4 events with David. Last night, we were in Wheat Ridge and we did a great event. It was called Opening the Portals Between Heaven and Earth, and it was a great meditation. And tonight, David will tell you about his incredible new book, and we'll have a lot of music and a lot of fun. The amazing thing about working with David is that every time I'm with him in an event, all of us go on a journey somewhere. We're out of our bodies and we're traveling, and it is a unique experience you won't forget. David has been doing this a long time, and his messages are so subtle, they just blow your soul away. They just open up everything and give you an opportunity to go back inside and just feel the incredible love and opportunities we have. So tonight he'll be at Journeys for Conscious Living in Arvada. And then tomorrow night, he's going to be at the Unity Church down about University, and I think that's Hamden. And then the following day, he's going to be doing events Sunday night. Is that right, David?
Yep.
Okay. And so he'll be down south in Littleton doing events also. And so we're very excited, obviously, to have the opportunity to work with David and wanted to introduce him to the world here and especially to Colorado. So, David, why don't you say hello and let's get into a great conversation.
Hello.
That was it.
Oh no.
All right. So, David, when did you start channeling? And what about these crazy voices that you hear and you talk to and you have an opportunity to bring to the world?
Well, the weird thing is that when you realize these voices that are telling you things are always right, because it's natural to be skeptical in the beginning when you start being guided with things and start getting messages, and these things start appearing in your life that are orchestrated. The first thing that I started to really lean on, and really the thing that was making me a believer in this whole thing, was the numbers that would repeat in my life.
Oh,
Um, like for me, the number 9 or 99 or 999, those were the numbers that started repeating in my life in 2010. And it was just bizarre to be always connecting with these numbers, seeing them everywhere, you know. Um, and then after a while, I started having that gave me the faith and the confidence because of the consistency of it. And then I realized that this person who was trying to connect with me from the heavenly side, um, who had died 10 years earlier, and when he was alive, I really wasn't interested in him when he was alive, because I used to play rock music before I did new age music with the flute. And when I was growing up playing guitar, he was not one of my favorite guitar players, because I
oh,
liked Led Zeppelin and AC.
Can you tell him that?
Well, he's forgiven me. And so when George Harrison started appearing in my life in 2010, I really couldn't understand why he was interested in me when I had not been interested in him. I knew who the Beatles were. Obviously, I know they had amazing songs, but when you're a guitar player and you're learning to play your instrument, you really emulate your favorite guitar players. You play with it. Do you remember phonograph records?
yes.
You play along with your phonograph records with your guitar and everything. And so I couldn't understand why George was interested in me, but now I understand. And there's a tremendous connection between George Harrison and Jesus, whose real name is Yeshua. You can call him
Wow.
Jesus if you want, but Yeshua is his real name. Everybody knows he was Jewish, and there's 5 places in the Bible where he was called a rabbi, because he was a rabbi. But most people don't realize that in order to become a rabbi, you have to have 2 things first, and you have to have a wife, and you have to have children. So, Mary Magdalene was his wife. Her father was Joseph of Arimathea, who is also in the Bible. And she came from like the wealthiest family in that whole area. And when Jesus came back and he was 30 years old, Mother Mary introduced him to Mary Magdalene at a wedding, because Mother Mary obviously knew what she was doing. And so they got married very shortly after, and had 3 children, and they lived together for 3 years there in the Magdala area. That's where Mary Magdalene's last name comes from. Mary Magdalene, it's because she was from the area called Magdala, which was right next to Nazareth, very close to the Sea of Galilee. And when that horrible thing happened, Mother Mary took over guardianship of their 3 children, and Mary Magdalene found a way to save Jesus' life through the help of a Roman soldier. And all this stuff is going to be things that I'm going to be explaining and showing paintings that I made that were channeled a year or 2 years before I found out any of this. And it's really been an amazing journey for me to be part of this thing, because, I grew up Jewish, so I didn't know, I couldn't believe when Jesus started showing up to people at my events. It was really a shock. I never saw that one coming, And
Oh my gosh.
over the last 3.5 years since he started showing up, well, he obviously has good taste in music. That was a joke. Okay. Next time I tell you a joke, I'll tell you it's coming, so you don't miss it.
Well,
But
couldn't quite hear the joke. Will you tell it again?
well, gee, I have so many jokes. I don't know if I can remember.
Well,
So-
David, I got a question real quick. I watched this wonderful movie called Jesus, The Lost Years. It's Jesus in India.
Yeah, Jesus in India. I wrote about that in my book because
Oh, Paul Davids. Do you know him? Paul Davids, the producer. It's a documentary.
Actually, we became really good friends because there was
Ah,
somebody who read Paul David's book, and had also read my book, Channeling Harrison, that came out in 2014. And this person said, the only person that I've ever heard with more evidence with channeling, or as much evidence with channeling as Paul David's in his book,
wow.
was my book. So he said, you guys should meet. So I think it was about 3 years ago. Paul Davids and I met when I was in Los Angeles.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
we became really good friends, and we still are good friends.
Yeah, he was here and I bought the video. He has a documentary video
Yeah,
and
yeah, I saw it.
yeah, it's great.
That video
Wow.
talks about things that are in my book.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, because you
That's
know,
amazing.
Israel is right next to Egypt, and so the first place Jesus went to study spirituality was in the mystery schools of Egypt, and then he went to India next, and he studied from the gurus and yogis over there who knew how
Right,
to do magic and healing. They knew how to do that for thousands of years through
right,
Ayurvedic healing.
right.
And then after that, he went to Tibet and studied at a Buddhist monastery in Tibet. And that's one of the things that's in Paul David's movie,
That's right.
Jesus in India. And I talk about his movie in my book.
Yeah. Wow. That is so cool.
I'm going to get back on track a little bit. So you talked a
Sorry.
little bit about George Harrison, but then what else happened? Who else came in?
Well, after 3 years of having experiences with George, that I was mainly skeptical, I had a really huge breakthrough experience when I was in Hawaii, where I was able to communicate telepathically with him, which is also called channeling. Translating would be a better word than channeling, if you want, whatever it's worth, because you're translating information from the heavenly dimension down into the physical dimension, you know. Um, and so in that big, huge experience, John Lennon came through in that experience, which completely blew my mind. And 2 weeks later, I went to see a channeler because I was finally convinced that this stuff was real.
Yeah.
Because I would have never gone to pay a channeler. You got to be kidding me. I thought channeling was, it starts with a B, but just to be nice, I'll say baloney. I thought that anybody could make up anything in channeling, and there was no way to prove any of it. Well, believe me, they proved me wrong in that one. And so that's why in the front of my book it says, evidential channeling, because when you have evidence of things. So 2 weeks after I had that huge experience with George Harrison and John Lennon in Hawaii, I went to see a channeler, and this channeler told me every single thing George and John said to me, word for word, like she was reading it off a script. It blew my mind so bad, so bad. And I've never been the same ever since.
It was still in the field probably after they had downloaded it to you, and she could probably see it.
Well, whatever it was so completely,
That's probably
perfectly
right.
right on.
Excellent.
Because the natural tendency, and I hear people talk about this all the time at my events, because tonight will be my 419th event in 4 years.
Cool.
Most of the events have been called A Portal Between Heaven and Earth, but now the event tonight is called The True Story of Jesus and His Wife, Mary Magdalene, which is the same title as my book. And I'll be talking about a lot of things that are not even in the book, because that's the whole connection between Yeshua, aka Jesus, right?
Right.
And George and John.
Wonderful.
So tell us a little bit about what the event is tonight and what someone would experience if they come join us, or I better say when they come join us tonight.
Right. Well, while this was happening, while I was doing all these events going back about 3 years, after about 6 months of me doing these events, about 500 people had shared that they had a conversation or spiritual travel with their mom, their dad, their grandmother, a friend from childhood who died young, somebody who they loved who is now in heaven. And in the beginning, when people would share these things, it was really, really mind blowing for me because I didn't even know that was possible. So just imagine I'm leading a workshop and people are sharing these experiences that I never had, and I didn't even know they were possible for a human being to have. And after about 6 months, 500 people had shared in front of the rest of the audience what their experience was like, what their mom or their grandmother or somebody who they loved had shared with them, or what they had shown them while they were traveling in the heavenly dimension, meditating at one of my events. And then something really weird happened because, having 500 people meet with their grandmothers and grandfathers. That wasn't weird anymore, you know, because after a couple of weeks of that, it was just like, well, this is happening every single night with 5 or 10 or 20 people. So after a while, that just became a part of my normal, you know. And then after 6 months, something strange happened, and that was Jesus appeared to 3 people at one of my events, and all 3 people saw him standing in the same spot.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, that was a real mind blower. That was a game changer for me, you know, because I thought I was just a good flute player. You know, I didn't know that, you know, all these, all these famous Hollywood people like Jesus, you know. Well,
So
he's the
you're
real.
creating some sort of otherworldly field where there's a connection in between. You're like clearing the veil
Well, yeah,
between this dimension and that.
that's why the events are called a portal between heaven and earth.
That makes sense.
Because apparently I signed up for this before this life because while I was writing the book and getting really frustrated about how the energy of the family, I call them the family because Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, that's a lot of syllables. So if I just call them the family, you know, because they're a family. Mother Mary is Jesus' mom, and Mary Magdalene is Jesus' wife. They're getting ready to celebrate 2,000 happy years of marriage. I don't know what kind of birthday cake or kind of special cake you get for somebody celebrating 2,000 years of marriage. Maybe we can look it up on Google. Maybe Google will know. But yeah, so I called them the family, and they just kept consistently showing up to people at my events. Over 1,000 people had conversations or spiritual travel with one of them. And then they started bringing their friends. So people started having experiences with Buddha and Krishna and Archangel Michael and Saint Germain and Gandhi and Kuan Yin and Isis and every ascended master, every archangel you can name has been experienced hundreds of times at my events. And so
including last night.
Yeah, oh well, it happens every night. I mean, I don't have any
Including
events.
last night, there were so many amazing stories.
Yeah, it's normal for
Yeah.
between half and 3/4 of the people attending the event to share their experience
Now,
with one another.
David, also talk about channeling your paintings.
Yeah, well, what happened was over the last 3 years, while all these people were having experiences with Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary, I started painting again, and I made 150 paintings.
Wow.
50 of those paintings, which most of them were 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, or 7 feet. Okay, kind of hard to bring them in my suitcase, you know. But most of those paintings of these 50 paintings that I made were all images of 2 figures in a cave, or this cave at the top of a mountain. I didn't find out until 2 years later that Jesus and Mary Magdalene lived in this famous cave in the south of France,
Right.
called the Cave of Mary Magdalene. Now,
Right.
everybody knows that Mary Magdalene lived there, but my book is the first book that explains who saved him. Mary Magdalene was friends with this Roman soldier who saved him.
And gave him
And
belladonna or something.
say that
Right.
again.
They said they gave him belladonna or something to make him appear like he had passed, but it was really a sedative so they could take him down from the cross and save his life.
Well, he did say a little bit about that to me, but the difficult thing about when you explain something like that is, well, unfortunately, there are some people who believe that when a nice, good, loving man gets tortured, there are some people who call that glorious. I don't know how anybody could call that glorious. You know what I mean? You know, because in the Bible they call it a glorious moment. You know, and that's really not a glorious moment when a good guy is getting tortured. You know, and as far as I know, in the movies, whenever you have a good guy, and if somebody saves the good guy, that's known as the hero.
Right.
Well, Mary Magdalene was the hero who saved him through the help of this Roman soldier. You know, so, you know, there you have it. So the way this is all explained at my event, it's all in my book, The True Story of Jesus and His Wife, Mary Magdalene. And it's really a mind-blowing thing because, you know, we all love to be understood. right? And when we're misunderstood, it's a really horrible feeling. If you got 3 people at your job who are misunderstanding you, it feels like it's the end of the world, you know. Well, just imagine having 5 billion people completely misunderstand you and having a book completely misrepresent you,
Right.
you know. And so the reason why this book has come out now is because humanity is in a place where people are waking up. They're way more mature spiritually. I'm not talking about our president. I'm talking about everybody else is way more mature spiritually, you know. Um, and
Yeah.
you know what I
I
mean,
just want to
right?
tell them a little bit about your book because it is absolutely amazing. The book itself has David's paintings, the artwork in the book, and then the stories overlaid. But on many of the pages, there's QR codes. And those QR codes you scan, and David's original music is playing while you're reading the book. It
Yeah.
is so unusual and awesome.
Yeah, my publisher says it's the first book of its kind. It's like a coffee table size book. It's 13 inches by 10 inches. All the pages are in full color. So under the words are my paintings ghosted in the background. So when you're reading the story of what really happened to them, you're seeing these soft healing colors underneath the words. And then there's also pages that have a full painting on it. But the
Beautiful.
way this whole thing manifested, can you imagine that I'd made all these paintings? I had no idea before I went to France that these paintings were connected to their lives or their story or any of this. And then when I got back from France, and I started looking at these paintings, I realized that these paintings were telling the story of what actually happened to them. So it's
Wow.
kind of like a storybook with paintings that, you know, it's really been a mind-blowing experience for me. And there was a time when this thing was just taking over my life. Um, and I was really getting frustrated that it was taking over my life. And my ex-girlfriend used to channel Jesus and Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary all the time, you know. And on one day, I was really frustrated how much of my life was being taken over by this. And so Jesus gave Mimi, my ex-girlfriend, this message: tell David he signed up for this in his soul contract before this life that he made.
Uh,
So if he's frustrated about this, you know, don't complain to me. You need to complain to God because you made this arrangement with God. You know?
oh, I don't think you really want to complain to God too much.
Well, you can try. I don't know. You know.
Zap. Um, well, so David, on tonight you're going to be going through the information and the extra information that's not in your new book. I put up your website so people could go there and see your art that we were just talking about and your new book. And then Larry, it'd be great if we could give everyone an idea of how they can buy a ticket for tonight.
You bet.
And you guys really, if you're in Colorado and you can experience this, it is it's an opportunity to reconnect to your soul and to really use that frequency energy that's coming through very strong right now to really change your life, release everything you don't want in it, and take the high road. This is the time.
You know,
This
one of
is
the
what I'm here
one of the
for.
unique one of the unique parts about this whole thing is because, first of all, we've all lived so many lifetimes before. You can't even count them. It's so many of them, you know. And one of the things that happens is that we resonate with certain things because we've heard them before. Now, when we've heard things before, that's not necessarily because they're true,
Right.
but because we've heard things before, there's a certain familiarity with these things that we've heard. And so part of the problem that the ascended masters and the archangels have is that for like 1800 years, there have been so many people who have been reading the story in the Bible and rereading it and not knowing that that's not the whole story. And well, that's not even half of the story, you know, but because of the way the world is, you know, so when people have had 100 lifetimes as Christians, you know, even though they may, as a young child, there are so many people come to my events, especially women who say, when I was a little girl, I never believed that Jesus didn't have a wife. How could a man that good looking not have a wife? You know? And there are so many people who have experiences when they're a child that Jesus and Mary Magdalene will appear to them. And like one of the stories in my book is that there was a woman from Syracuse, New York, who's a leader in her community. She's a healer, she's a psychic. I mean, she is loved by so many people in her community, you know. And she explained to me, because she hosted one of my events when I was there in Syracuse a couple of years ago. She explained to me that when she was a little kid, Jesus and Mary Magdalene used to appear to her all the time.
Wow.
So after years of Jesus and Mary Magdalene appearing to her, she decided to tell her mom, "Hey, mom, Jesus and Mary Magdalene are in my room right now. Isn't this cool? Isn't this great?"
Nope.
Well, the mom came from a Catholic background. What is a Catholic person supposed to do when you hear something like that? You would think they could be celebrating, but no, they weren't celebrating. They took the kid to the church and they had an actual exorcism because this kid said that Jesus and Mary Magdalene are in her life,
Right,
appearing in her room
right.
every day. And so while that ridiculous thing happened, she explained that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were telling her, just play along with it. It's like, play along with it like it's a game, and that's what she did. And she's now a well-known psychic who helps so many people. She's like one of those shining lights in her community. And
Wonderful.
I've heard these stories so many times of people saying that, when I was a kid, I always knew that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were together. How come the Bible got that story wrong?
Well, David, in the interest of time, we're going to try to wrap up and add a few things. So for tonight's event, don't go online and register. Just come to the door and we'll honor the same price, whether you had registered in advance or if you register at the door. It's $30 for this evening. And David is also going to be available for readings over the afternoon today and tomorrow, is my understanding. Is that right, David?
Yep.
And tell them about your readings because they're so
I want to
good.
do it, but I don't know if I can schedule it, but I want to do it. I do.
Well, it's a unique kind of reading because it involves music and songwriting. So the client comes to me, it's a 20-minute reading, and the client comes to me with a stumbling block or an obstacle that's been getting in the way of their happiness. Okay, it could be something with their job, something with a relationship, something with their career, whatever it is, it's a stumbling block that's getting in the way of their happiness. So they explain their situation to me for about 5 minutes in the beginning. I write down a message that I get from Spirit on a piece of paper in front of them. I have my guitar right next to me, and after I write down the message, I write that message into a song right in front of them. So this way, instead of trying to remember words, they have a song that they can remember. That's why every television advertisement has a song or a jingle. So this way, once that song gets in your head, you never forget it. And it's the same reason why people with Alzheimer's disease who can't remember their own name can still remember all the words to Amazing Grace or whatever their favorite song was, because a song has words and melody, words and music, and your mind stores the words in one part of your brain and the music in the other side of your brain. Okay. And so I write the song for the person out of the message I've received. They get that song emailed to them right there in front of them. And now they have a song to sing and remember their whole life. And my favorite story is that this woman shared her experience with me. And I wrote down 9 words. I am strong. I am protected. I am confident. I write that into a song right in front of her. I sing it into her cell phone. And when I'm done singing that song into her cell phone, she says, "Last week, Archangel Michael came to me and he gave me those same 9 words you just wrote into my song." So
That's awesome.
I split the
is
proceeds
awesome.
with Archangel Michael because
You're his rep, your agent.
yeah, he gets part of it. You got to
So
give credit
tonight
where it's
we're
due.
at Journeys for Conscious Living at 7401 West 59th Avenue in Arvada. And then tomorrow night, David will be at a Unity Church. And then Sunday, he'll be in Littleton. We'll have lots more of information on our Facebook page for Journeys as well as our website. And you can just go to David's website also, davidyoung.com.
DavidYoungMusic.com.
Oh, thank you, davidyoungmusic.com.
It's on the
Cather.
Yeah, the other David Young, he's a lawyer and a judge, and you don't need to go there.
Yeah, it didn't look like you. He looked like a congressman.
Yeah. Yeah, they always try to dress me up like that judge. I can't.
Yeah, the hair's different.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. Kathy, we're looking forward to seeing you tonight.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see you all again. And I hope a bunch of the audience that lives here in Colorado will take the time and change their plans for tonight or tomorrow over the weekend and get a chance to experience this, because this is really a portal to help you be everything you intended to be, and get in contact with all of that much easier, much faster. Music bypasses the ego.
Yep.
So music is music and art, unless the music's loud, actually that brings the ego out. But most music bypasses the ego, so you have a chance to reconnect to your soul and embody it, which is the gig here, right? On planet Earth. Well, anyway, so Jane Sibbett's here, Zach's here, so there's a bunch of people here that Connie Ma. So anyway,
Oh,
hopefully
Jane is
you
on?
guys will be able
Jane
to
is-
join us.
Oh, hey, Jane.
Yeah, do you know Jane Sibbett?
Yeah, I know Jane. Yeah, quite
Yeah,
well.
she's a good friend of mine too.
Yeah, wonderful person.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Cool. Okay. Well, we better rock, but thank you. Oh, she has all your CDs. You're amazing. And it for us. Thank you, Jane. Love you so
Thank you,
much.
Jane.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for doing this impromptu conscious business zone. So glad to be able to feature you, David, and look forward to getting a hug later
Sure.
today.
Hey, I want to say
Kathy.
one last thing about the event tonight.
Okay.
The story that's been orchestrated in my life that has been channeled from about 10 people who were part of this whole thing with my book. This story is so much more logical. It makes so much more sense than the story that's in the Bible. You can't ever look at religion the same way once you hear this, because it makes so much sense.
Oh, good. Will you have books there tonight?
Yep. Yes. I
Okay.
will.
And the one other thing to let you know that Larry plays flute too. So this is really cool. I don't know if there's going to be any of that
No,
going
no,
on.
no, no, no.
No,
There's not going to
darn.
be any of that going on here tonight.
Yeah, what you
Darn.
don't know
Larry's
is
really
David
good
really
too,
plays
so.
AC/DC.
Yeah, there's
Right.
only room.
Yes,
There's only room for one flute player at this event tonight.
Oh my
I'm very sorry.
Okay, so we have to jam off hours, I guess. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you guys. Looking forward
Bye.
to seeing you later.
Lots of
Kathy,
love.
thank
Everyone-
you so
and,
very
Jane
much.
said she saw Mother Mary when she was with you, and she said you're going to have a great time. So,
Bye.
yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Kathy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.